Well, good morning, folks. It is 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Eastern, and we've got to make a delivery. We are in Mississippi currently, just east of Memphis, and we've got to make a delivery in Beaufort, Georgia, 400 miles away, a little less than 400 miles away, by 8 a.m. Yeah, not going to happen. The maths don't math. So we are late. We were always late. We were never going to be on time. I have informed my dispatcher. He is not happy with it, but it's not my fault. It all came down to yesterday's unload and how long it took us to get unloaded and get to the next shipper and pick up the load and get underway. There was no way to get here or get going any sooner. We cannot cross Mississippi, Alabama, and half of Georgia in 4 hours. Just can't be done. So we will probably be delivering around between 11 and 12, would be my guess. Let me rephrase that. Between 10 and 11 would be my guess. We are currently, I just finished my pre-trip, and I was about to get inside and get some quick supplies, and then we will be on the road. So I will see you soon. So we've made it through Mississippi, and Eastern time. I don't know what time zone we're actually in. I don't think we've crossed into Eastern quite yet, but we're now in Alabama. It is 5:40 Eastern. We've still got 287 miles to go. GPS is now telling us we'll be there about 11:06, but this GPS trucker path always way overestimates.
Welcome to Alabama.
So my guess is we'll be there 10:45, give or take. On the plus side, we probably won't run into too much Atlanta traffic because we're coming in late enough that we will have missed the bulk of rush hour. So I think we're good on that. What could we have done? What could I have done to get there on time? Now, if I wanted to absolutely stretch myself to the maximum, to the absolute limit, and just get there at 8 o'clock, no matter what, minimizing the chance of getting a ticket to the greatest degree, because that's the real risk. When we left out of Memphis, we had about 4.5 hours that we could have driven using the split sleeper rule. So let's just say I maxed that out and I drove the full 4.5 hours, and we managed to make an average of, and we're able to possibly theoretically drive at the absolute maximum speed of 70 miles an hour for those 4.5 hours. So let's just say 4 hours. At 70 miles an hour, that gives us 280 miles. On a it's actually a 410 mile trip, minus 280, that leaves 130 miles that we would have to figure out how to do in the morning. So what some people might do is run it all the way out, find some place to park, and do less than a 10-hour break. Now, keep in mind, legal requirement is to take a 10-hour break. There's no way to get around that if you want to reset your clock and get a fresh clock for the next day. But in theory, 130 miles is within the local driver radius. So there's a way you can drive without using the ELD, without using HOS, that basically is you can, within a 150 air mile radius, you don't need to run the clock. Now, keep in mind, the truck logs all that time, whether you're on the clock or not. So the truck is going to show that somebody was driving it for those 130 miles. I'm on an OTR schedule, basically, which means that I can run a maximum of 70 hours in a week in an 8-day period, and I'm subject to HOS rules. But if I was willing to risk the ticket, and it's a substantial ticket, and it's a ding on my CDL, and it would not look good if something happened and I had to go to a different company and it would be there for 3 years. But if I was willing to risk that, what I would do is basically log out of the ELD system and run it with just no one logged into the system. And then when, of course, the next time I logged in, I'd have to reject all that time and it would bounce back to the company. The company would then have to take that time and assign it to another driver, a local driver who can run without hours of service, because he's a local driver and they can drive within a 150 mile radius, not crossing state lines. So if I was able to get all the way to Georgia, get within state lines, and get within about a 150 mile radius, the way to cheat it would be for me to wake up early enough that I could get all the way to the destination before 8 a.m. and just run all that time without starting the clock, without ever logging into the ELD, without registering that time to my logs. And then the company would have to assign that drive time to somebody else so that it shows that somebody else was driving the truck when I was actually driving the truck. Now that's illegal, obviously. That's falsification of logs. I don't know how much the fine is for that, but it's not a small one. Chances of getting caught doing that depend on whether or not you're going through a weigh station. If you go through a weigh station and they pull you in for an inspection, you're done. You're hosed. There's always the risk of a DOT officer pulling you over randomly just out on the road, you know, coming up behind you in a cruiser and flashing his blue lights at you and pulling you over for a random inspection. I've actually had that happen. So it does happen. And he basically just pulled me over randomly and wanted to look at my HOS logs. Fortunately, I was clean. I had run it legal. I wasn't doing anything wrong, and so I passed that inspection, and I actually got a safety bonus for having done so from the company. The other risk, of course, is if I get into an accident or I get pulled over for breaking some other rule. You know, like I have a busted tail light, or I run a red light, or I run a stop sign or something, and I get pulled over. Then they check my logs and see that I am not running legally, and I get a ticket on top of whatever I got pulled over for, and get put out of service, meaning I can't drive for like a week or so, or however long it takes to clear off the logs. The odds of something like that happening, as I'm a pretty good driver and I don't get into accidents. I've been driving for 3 years and I haven't gotten into any accidents that I caused. I've only once in 3 years gotten pulled over randomly. Twice in 3 years gotten a ticket. So the odds of me actually getting caught breaking that rule are pretty slim, but I'm taking all the risk. And why would I take that risk? It's not my fault I'm late. You know, took as long as it took to get unloaded yesterday. It took longer than it should have took, but it wasn't my fault that it took that long. I was early to the delivery yesterday, so it wasn't like I was running late getting unloaded. It just took like 5 hours from the time I arrived, so it just took a while to get unloaded. And as a result, it took me till 2:30 or so to get to the next pickup. And I still had to get loaded. And in order to have made it to Atlanta and made it to the delivery on time legally, I would have had to have left the shipper before 2 p.m. Eastern time. And it was 2:30 or so Central time that I even got to the shipper. So there was no possible way. I was already an hour and a half beyond the time that I could have legally delivered before I ever arrived at the shipper. It was never going to be possible for me to deliver by 8 a.m. today, legally. And so it's not my fault that I'm arriving late. I'm going to arrive probably a little less than 3 hours late. Completely outside of my control, and I'm not willing to risk a ding on my CDL and an expensive ticket and being put out of service to make up for that. It just isn't gonna happen. So it is what it is. I don't like being late, but when it ain't my fault, I'm not gonna do illegal stuff to make up time. You know, like I said last night, if you watched yesterday's video, before I went to bed, I said that, you know, if I was within 15 miles, something really close to the delivery point, then I might wake up early and do that small amount of distance logged out or in personal conveyance. Because it's a small distance, the risk is negligible. And I could actually make the argument, I got here last night, they were closed, I went over to some place, stopped, and then came back. So I'm using personal conveyance legitimately. You know, when you get to within a certain range of a receiver or a shipper, I think it's okay to, at that point, use personal conveyance to get from the nearest truck stop to the shipper or receiver. That's gray area as far as I'm concerned, but it's one that it's a risk I'm willing to take as long as I'm not going through a way station or something to get there. But 130 miles, potentially crossing through a way station, going through Atlanta traffic, anything could happen. It's too big of a risk for me. So yeah, that's how you would do it, and that's why I wouldn't do it.
Sunrise, I've never seen a thing so beautiful till your eyes show me an even brighter day. Sunrise keeps running off with every morning. With your eyes, they always seem to stay. I've got all I need standing right in front of me. Everything my eyes could ever wanna see. Sunrise, wish I could catch it when it's leaving, so my eyes could rest upon you all the day. Sunrise, I never seen anything so beautiful till your eyes show me an even brighter way.
Station crossing the border. I doubt we'll get pulled in for an inspection, but there's always that risk. I don't think we would have even made it this far last night because we've been driving in 70 this whole time. Even except for through Birmingham, but even through Birmingham we weren't really hitting a whole lot of traffic. We would have hit more traffic if we'd have tried it last night because we were leaving Memphis during rush hour. So I don't know that we could have gotten as far as we got this morning if we'd have tried to do it last night. I don't know. Any way you look at it, this is the absolute max limit of where we could have gotten to yesterday, and we're still over 100 miles away, and crossing the state line, and going through a way station. Just too risky. Too risky. It's been a pretty morning. Must have rained last night because it's been wet the whole way. I didn't see any rain coming out of Memphis, but at some point during the night it was raining. traffic. So, those of you that don't know, trucks aren't supposed to go inside the 285 perimeter unless they have a local delivery or a local destination. But 285 can get quite congested. We're in the exit lane, and we're probably a mile from the actual exit, and we're already backed up. And there is inevitably somebody, and I've been this somebody on occasion, who doesn't realize they need to get into the exit lane soon enough.
Now keep left.
And winds up stuck in a normal travel lane trying to figure out how to get over, which always creates the jam.
After a quarter of a mile, keep right to take exit 51B.
See one or two so far. The closer we get, the more likely we are to see somebody trying to get over at the last possible moment. That figures. When I'm filming, it doesn't happen. I could see a couple of them. I doubt y'all could see them. They were kind of blocked by that night truck. If he wasn't there, you'd have been able to see him.
Keep right to take exit 51B and continue on to the Interstate 285 north towards Chattanooga. Now keep right to take exit 51B.
So I'm probably shooting myself in the foot for saying this, because it'll jinx it. But traffic's not bad right now for 9:30 on a weekday. I think it's a weekday. It's Friday, isn't it? Yeah, it's Friday, so rush hour is just over. It's not too bad so far. That could always change. But there's a secret to getting around 285 smoothly. And that is that the left 3 lanes, including the one that we're in, go all the way around. The 4th lane, or the rightmost lane, the granny lane, sometimes gets on, sometimes it gets off. It's an exit only lane. There's frequently backups from people merging and slowing down and causing issues. So if you get into this lane, the 3rd from the left, it is legal for trucks all the way around. Has the minimum amount of traffic in it usually. But as you get closer to the major junctions like 75 and 400, we get an extra lane. So right now where we're at, there's no trucks allowed in the left 2 lanes. But when you get close to the major junctions, they give you one more lane. So we can change lanes as we get close to the junctions, get through them a little bit faster, and then get back into this lane and be legal. I've heard that the fine for running in one of these no truck lanes is pretty pricey, like $1,000, something like that. I don't remember, but I don't want to find out. I've run those lanes occasionally when it's dense traffic because it doesn't really matter at that point. But yeah, that's the secret to getting around 285. Is the 3rd from the left lane for most of the way around, and take the 2nd from the left when you're close to the junctions. going southbound on 85 right now. It looks to be a mess. But we're going against traffic, so we'll be fine. We are only 23 miles away from our delivery at this point. We are running. We're obviously still late because it is 9:50. But GPS is now estimating 10:22. We'll probably beat that by at least a couple of minutes. So the ETA I gave my dispatcher was 11 o'clock, so we beat that by 45 minutes. We made good time. Okay, we're here. As I suspected, there wasn't any delay getting into a dock. Guy gave me kind of a dirty look, but I'm guessing they were just kind of waiting on us. But nothing that could be done about it. That's what it is. It is what it is. So yeah, I don't know what we're doing next, but I'm going to check in with my dispatcher and let him know I'm getting unloaded, and we'll see. Probably, most likely, we're going back to the yard from here because we are literally 5 minutes away. So we'll see. Well, we are back at the yard. We got unloaded pretty quick. There was no issues. I didn't think there would be. No issues with being late either. They just the guy at first seemed like he was giving me a dirty look, but on my way out he seemed totally cool. So I don't know what that was about. I did swing back by the yard to drop off some paperwork, and boss came out and gave everything a good looking over. We put some oil in the engine, and he gave me a new trailer because apparently the old trailer, that one there, has a leak just starting in the inside rear axle of the hub seal is apparently starting to leak, and he picked it up. It's just gotten started. It wasn't even really at a point where it was critical yet, but it could get critical real quick, and it's a DOT violation. So it's a good thing he caught it. I would never have picked that up on a pre-trip, because he had to get under there with a flashlight and really look into the wheel to see it. But we're out of here now, so see you at the next stop. To mention what the next stop is and what the next load is. It's pretty much the same load we did last Friday. We are picking up in Dallas, Georgia, which is, I don't know, about an hour from here, give or take. Let's see. Picking up in Dallas, Georgia. May just be filling up the air in the trailer. In fact, that's probably what it is. We'll give it a minute. Anyways, we're picking up in Dallas, Georgia, and going back up to New York again. Basically the same load we ran last weekend. If you'll recall, if you were watching that video, you may recall that I mentioned that they usually have 3 stops on that route, on that lane. Well, we're taking the third stop. Is it building area? Yeah, we're building it here now. They must have just been filling up the reserve tanks on the trailer. But yeah, we're picking up the same load as last weekend. So we will probably make a lot of the same stops as last weekend. Or at least the on the way stops. And then we shall make our delivery on Monday morning. We do not have, it's not a two-stopper this time, it's just the third of the 3 normal stops. I guess they had so much to send that they split it up into 2 loads this time. So, alrighty, I'll see you when we get to the shipper.
After 1,000 feet, you will reach your waypoint. The waypoint will be on your left. You have reached your stop. The stop is on your right. After 1,100 feet, make a U-turn.
Checked in and properly docked.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Folks, well, we are out of here and headed northbound. We've got about 2 hours and 45 minutes left on our clock. I'm going to try and get us, there's a pilot a little bit north of Chattanooga. I'm going to try and get us there. Hopefully the traffic won't be too bad getting through there. But we'll see. On a side note, looks like we are going to be trying to troubleshoot a trailer ABS light this weekend. Talked to the boss. He said next time I'm back in the 30 on a 34, and they're probably he's gonna try and get me back on the 34 soon. But they'll do a thorough diagnostic on it then. But I don't want to drive too long with the light lit, so I'm gonna try and get it fixed. I'm gonna try and fix it myself this weekend if I can. Maybe we'll get lucky. All the basic diagnostics that I know how to do are essentially to turn the truck off and on, see if it goes away. It didn't. Back up and brake really hard a couple of times, see if there's maybe some crud on the sensor. That didn't work. I saw a quick video on YouTube. It was talking about hitting the brakes hard 6 times. I tried that, it didn't work. So we're gonna have to get dirty and get underneath the trailer at some point this weekend and take a closer look, see what I can figure out. Well, it is a good thing my dispatcher sent me to fuel stop, because it had not even occurred to me that we might not be taking the same route I always take up on this lane. Usually when I take this particular load, I go up 75 if I'm coming from the shipper directly, or if I'm coming from the yard I go up 85. But I come up 75, meet up with I-81, take I-81 all the way north. Well, we're not going that way this time. I have to take a closer look at the route, but we're going through Ohio this time, which I've never gone through on this particular lane. I think it's because we're just taking the one drop, and usually it's a multi-stop load with a stop in Tyrone, and that's probably the stop that takes us up, that requires us to go up 81. Take that out of the loop, and I guess there's a different and faster and more efficient route to get us there that I've just never taken before. And it didn't even occur to me that we might be going a different route, so I was not paying attention to the GPS. But the fuel stop came through, and when I saw it was in Ohio, I was like, what? So I took a closer look at our route, and sure enough, we're going through Ohio. So I'll take a closer look to see which way we're going once we get to our stop tonight.
You have reached your stop. The stop is on your
take. I gotta get swung around and pointing the other direction so I can get in it. I think you're not lined up right there, son. Transportation. Yeah. Spots open, and I can just take one of them because now I did not get turned around fast enough. Trying to fight with you for the spot. I'm just trying to get past you so I can get lined up for another spot.